everyone, welcome back, and in this video I'll be giving you some information on design thinking. So design thinking is a framework for innovation. So as business analysts, as product managers and product teams, product owners, all of us are involved in building solutions. We build solutions to solve particular user-centric problems, and building a solution can be quite tough because you can build a solution, but in order to validate or in order to know whether you have built the right solution is very tough. Most of the companies, they kind of think that a particular solution is going to solve their customers' problems, but indirectly that doesn't happen. They don't end up solving problems. So design thinking is a very effective framework that can be used in order to develop solutions for problems as well as to develop innovative solutions. Okay, so it's the framework for innovation, and that's what we'll get to see. So this video is for everyone who works on a product team, for business analysts, product owners and managers, and even the product team, the development team, and user experienced designers, and everyone. So let's get into it. So what is design thinking? Now keep in mind, design thinking is something that you need to know about. People like in this current age, they keep, these are some interview questions also that you might get asked as to what is design thinking. So design thinking is a mindset and approach to problem solving and innovation anchored around human centric design. Okay, so as I said, it's a problem solving framework as well as innovation. So innovation anchored around human centered design. So innovation is not just some innovation that the boss or the company feels that needs to be there. Innovation needs to be anchored around humans, around the customers who are actually going to use the solution. So that's the main crux of design thinking. So it's a solution based framework that focuses on the solution rather than the problem. Don't always look at the problem as the problem. Of course, you need to look at the problem, but when you look at the problem, your main intention would be of you just need to solve the problem, but you always need to think about the solution. Think whether the solution is going to really ease the customers and users of their pains and difficulties, if it's really providing value to customers. So more than a problem-based framework, it's a solution-based framework. And as I said, it enables teams to build solutions while keeping in mind the intended users. So whenever you use this design thinking, always keep customers as the focus. That's what they call customer-centric solutioning, customer-centric designs, customer-centric frameworks, things like that. So if you see the stages of innovation, so it's not a linear kind of an approach. When I say linear, of course there is some linearity, but it does not end once the entire process is done. So if you look at the process, the very first one is to empathize. The second one is to define the problem. The third stage is where you ideate, and then you prototype. You build prototypes, you test it out, and then you build the solution, and then you deliver it. Okay, so this is the stages of innovation, and I said it's not of course it's linear. If you see it from empathize, it goes all the way to implementation, but it just doesn't stop. Even after implementation, sometimes you might think that there's a better solution. So again, the entire process again reinitiates. So it's non-linear but kind of linear in kind of a style. So it's more of, I can say, agile. Okay, so there is linearity, but it's more agile. You just don't stop. Okay, so let's see each stage in detail. So the first one is empathize. So this is the very most important step of the process. So you can never understand customers' pains and their problems unless you empathize with them, unless you put yourself in their shoes. So by empathizing with them, you get to understand the person affected by that problem, and you can find a more impactful solution. Because developing a solution can be fine, but if you understand who is actually using the solution. So even in a couple of videos before this, I had mentioned like when you kind of do an interview with maybe stakeholders, maybe the client is kind of trying to build an accounting system, but the actual accountants, okay, the people really doing the groundwork of accounting, if they don't get to be interviewed, you would never understand their pain points. There might be some manager representing them, and they would be giving you, the entire subject matter content. But it's always good to go to the person who's doing it, a clerk, a accountant, understand what's their day-to-day process, understand what are their pains, where they are exactly finding issues, and where it's actually difficult for them. Only when you do that, you would be able to build impactful solutions. So at the max, you need to understand the person affected by the problem, and even more better if you get to interact with them, converse with them, and interview them, you would get much more better insights to build an impactful solution. So that's the first stage. And the second one is clarifying. So this phase involves teams sitting down to clarify all questions and to narrow down the focus on defining the right problem. Okay. So there's a lot, of course, when you empathize, there are a lot of confusions, there might be certain hiccups that happens, and there might be some fuzzy scenarios and situations. So it's always good to get things clarified. So it's within the team, there's some clarification that happens, and you can even do clarifications with the concerned people and the right stakeholders. So once you have all your doubts clarified, then it would be much more easier, and you would have a clearer picture to define the exact problem. Okay, so clarification can be done through various ways. So it can be done through interviewing, brainstorming, you can have observations and research, on desk research, on field research, things like that. And once the clarifications and observations are collected, the team can define the exact problem statement. So that's the stage of clarification. The next one is to ideate. Okay, in this phase, the team brainstorms various ideas that can solve the problem identified. So now, once you have identified the problem, the team needs to brainstorm solutions, ideas. So there are a lot of ideas that come up. So you can do this, you can do that, you can solve this problem by by this method and by that method. A lot of brainstorming happens. And one thing that you need to keep in mind when you're ideating is that the team needs to avoid any assumptions or biases. So personally, you might have some pre beliefs, and you might have some experiences in the past and things like that. But while having all that, it's very important that you keep aside all assumptions, biases, experiences, and keep in mind the user, because they are the ones who are facing a particular situation, and they are the ones experiencing some pains. So keep in mind the user when coming up with a solution. Don't keep in mind yourself. Okay, you put yourself in their shoes and then think about the solution they are expecting. And the next phase is prototype. So once you have some idea of the solution, you can of course jump into implementation, but that's going to cost you some time and cost and effort. So the best way you can kind of validate that idea is by a prototype. So even you can use hypothesis driven development over here. So basically you have something that you feel would work out, so that becomes an hypothesis, and with that hypothesis you can kind of validate the hypothesis, and based on that you can move on to development. So similar to that, that's the prototype phase. This phase involves validating each idea by building a prototype. So let's say you have an idea, an hypothesis. So now you want to validate that idea, whether really that solves the problem. So you build a prototype, and keep in mind that this step over here, this stage, is not about perfection, but rather experimenting with different ideas and seeing which parts work and which don't. So you have an idea, of course, you feel that that's the best solution for the customer, and you build that prototype, and then you take it forward and get it validated with the end users and see if that's really solving their problem. So if it's yes, then you can move on with implementation, but if it's a no, then you can reiterate again. You can maybe switch to idea B, the next alternate solution, and then you can kind of validate. So that's kind of like a cycle till you get the perfect solution. So um, the very first, second, third things that you try, don't try to be really perfect in building the exact solution, but always keep in mind it's a prototype. So that's what I even say, when you build an MVP, it's not the entire product. Many teams kind of, have that misconception. So keep in mind that it's not about perfection, but it's about validating your idea. And the next step is test. So in this phase, the idea in the form of a prototype, as I said, needs to be tested by the end user. And based on, if it's going to be really successful, then you go ahead and you implement the idea and deliver it to the customer. If it's not going to be successful, then again you go to solution B, as I said, and then you kind of reiterate. So in this way, you are applying design thinking, you're keeping in mind the customer, and you are building the right solution. So in the next video that I'll be taking, I'll be giving you examples of how some well-known companies have applied design thinking. Don't think design thinking is just some theoretical concept. Of course, so many companies are implementing design thinking, and that's few examples that I'll be giving you in the next video, so you can kind of watch out for that video. So I hope that you got some understanding on what design thinking is, and if you like this video, please do give this a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to this channel, and also do share your feedbacks. Thank you.